Good morning. This is chapter 7, Their Adventure on the Green Railway. The brownies looked around. They were in a bare open country with the walls of the land of the clever people behind them. "We'd better see you safely back to your country first," said Hop to the little girl, who was dancing about and clapping her hands for joy at having escaped. "Oh, we'll all travel on the Green Railway," said the little girl. I'll get out at Giggleswick, that's my station, and you can go on to Fiddlestick Field if you like, or come and stay with me at my home." "I think we'd better not do that," said Hop, who was beginning to feel that it was far easier to get into a strange land than out of it. "We might not giggle enough. Besides, we want to find out the way to Witchland as soon as we can," said Skip, "so we can rescue poor little Princess Perenelle." "Well, first of all, where's the Green Railway?" asked Jump. "Oh, it runs beneath the ground just here," explained the little girl. "I'll show you how to get to it. Look for a big yellow mushroom, all of you." The brownies began hunting all around. "I found a beauty," cried Hop. "So have I," called Skip. "So have we," said the little girl, running up with Jump. "Bring them here and set them down in a circle." They all brought their mushrooms. They were very big ones, quite as large as stools, and the brownies were able to stand them up straight and then sit on the tops. "Hold tight to your mushrooms," said the little girl, "while I say a magic rhyme." The brownies held tight. "Mushrooms, take us down below. 1, 2, 3, 4, off we go. Ricky, ticky, tolly, bo," cried the little girl. Whizz! The mushrooms suddenly sank down through the ground at a terrific pace. The brownies gasped for breath and held on as tightly as ever they could. Then bump, 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 bump. The 4 mushrooms all came to a sudden stop and tipped the brownies off their seats. They rolled on the ground. The little girl laughed, and she was still sitting on her mushroom. "Anyone can see you're not used to riding mushrooms. Come along and we'll see if a train is due now." The brownies picked themselves up and followed the little girl, who was scampering through a cave lighted by one star-shaped lamp. When she came to the end of it, she stopped, and the brownies saw a little door let into the wall. It opened, and the little girl ran through it. The brownies followed her, and to their astonishment found themselves on a tiny little platform. A solemn grey rabbit sat there with piles of tickets in front of him. 1 to Giggleswick and 3 to Fiddlestick Field," said the little girl. "1 penny each," said the grey rabbit, handing out the 4 tickets. "Next train in 5 minutes." And sure enough, in 5 minutes there came the rattle and clank of a train, and the funniest wee engine ran into the station, dragging behind it a long row of higgledy-piggledy carriages. They had no roof and no seats, only just cushions on the floor. It was very crowded too. One carriage was full of velvety moles who smoked long pipes and talked about the best way to catch beetles. Another carriage was full of giggling people who seemed to be making jokes and laughing at them as fast as they could. "Oh, there's some of my own people," cried the little girl gladly. "They're going to Giggleswick, I expect. Let's get on with them." So they all jumped in with the laughing people, though the brownies would really rather have got into an empty carriage. The train went off when the guard waved his flag and blew his whistle. It ran clanking through dark tunnels and big and little caves. The brownies were very much interested in all they saw and would have liked to have talked about it, but the other people in the carriage were so talkative and laughed so often they couldn't get a word in. The little girl was very much excited. She laughed more than anyone and told all about her adventure in the land of clever people. Hop thought she was nicer in that land than out of it, because she didn't giggle so much then. The train stopped again. "Borough Corner," shouted a sandy rabbit porter. The moles all got out, and so did the grey bunnies. Then the train went gaily off again. The next station was Giggleswick. All the gigglers got out. The little girl flung her arms around each of the brownies and hugged them. Do come and stay in my country," she begged. "Jump out now, do. We're very merry and laugh all day." "No, we really mustn't," said Hop, who didn't want to go with the gigglers in the least. "Goodbye, and we're so glad you're home safe." The train rattled off, and the brownies waved goodbye. "Well," said Jump, sitting down on his cushion, "I think I'd rather have to speak in rhyme all day than giggle every minute. What a terrible country to live in." "Thank goodness we didn't go there," said Hop. "What a lot of queer lands there are outside of Fairyland. How I wish we could go back to dear old Brownie Town again." "So do I," said Skip with a sigh, "but I don't expect we'll ever be able to do that, because we shall never be able to find our goodnesses, as the King said we must." "Oh, look," said Jump, "we're coming into the open air again." The train puffed out of the half-darkness and came to a sunny field. It ran along beside a hedge for some way and then out onto a roadway. All sorts of queer folks were walking there, and all kinds of animals who looked as if they'd been out marketing. The train stopped whenever anybody hailed it, and lots of people got in. "We shall never get to Fiddlestick Field," said Hop, when the train stopped for the 15th time. "Really, people are treating this train more like a bus. Oh dear, what's happened now?" The train stopped again. The driver was having a long talk with a friend he'd met. The brownies got very impatient. At last Hop got out and went up to the driver. "Aren't we ever going on again?" he asked. "We're in a hurry, you know." "Oh, are you?" said the driver. "Well, I'm going to have tea with my friend here, so you'd better get out and walk. This train won't start till 6 o'clock. So saying, the driver jumped from the train, linked his arm with his friend, and strolled off. All the passengers yawned, settled themselves onto their cushions, and went to sleep. The 3 brownies were very cross. "Fine sort of train this," grumbled Skip. "Goodness knows when we'll ever get to Fiddlestick Field." "I've a jolly good mind to drive the train myself," said Hop. "Oh, Hop, do," cried Jump. "I'm sure you could. Then we can get to Fiddlestick Field tonight." Hop looked at the engine. It really didn't look very difficult to drive, and he'd always longed to be an engine driver. This seemed a lovely chance. "All right," he said. "Come on, I'll drive the train with you to help me. How pleased all the passengers will be." Hop, Skip and Jump ran to the engine and jumped into the cabin. There were 4 wheels there, like the steering wheels of motor cars, and Hop had a good look at them. Over one was written, "Turn to the left," and over the other, "Turn to the right." The 3rd wheel said, "Go fast," written over it, and the last wheel had "Start engine." "Oh well, this looks easy enough," said Hop, twisting the start engine wheel. "Now we'll go on our travels once more." The train started off, rattle, clank, rattle. All the passengers woke up and looked most surprised. They hadn't expected the train to go so soon. One of them looked to see why the driver had come back so quickly. "Good gracious," he cried, "those brownies are driving. We shall have an accident." Everyone looked over the edges of their carriages in alarm. Yes, sure enough, the brownies were driving the engine. Dear, dear, dear. "We're coming to the curve," said Skip, who was thoroughly enjoying himself. "Twist the turn to the left, we'll Jump." Jump did so, and the train went smoothly round the bend. The brownies felt very pleased with themselves indeed. Fancy being able to drive an engine without any practice. "We must be clever," they thought. "There's a station coming," shouted Jump. "Slow down, Hop, and stop in case anyone wants to get out here." But dear me, there wasn't any wheel that said slow down or stop. Even when they twisted the start engine wheel backwards, the train didn't slow down. Whiz! The train rushed by, and the station rushed by, and the train didn't stop. Some of the passengers were very angry, for they wanted to get out, and they began shouting and yelling at Hop for all they were worth. They made him so nervous that instead of twisting the turn to the right wheel when they came to the other bend in the line, he twisted go fast wheel. The engine leapt forward and raced along the rails as if it were mad. All the carriages rocked and rattled, and the passengers' hats flew off in the air. "Hop, Hop," shouted Skip in fright. "We shall have an accident. Make it go slow." But there wasn't any wheel that said go slow, and Hop didn't know what in the world to do. He twisted every wheel in turn, but nothing happened at all, except that the train seemed to go faster still. The wind whistled past the brownies' ears and took their breath away. Stations whizzed past. The passengers forgot their anger in fear and clutched at the sides of their rocking carriages. A rabbit had his whiskers blown right off and was terribly upset. Then the train went up a big hill. It went more slowly, and some of the passengers wondered whether they would risk jumping out. There was a station at the top of the hill, and Hop read the name. "Fiddlestick Field," he cried. "Oh dear, this is where we get out. Oh, can't we stop the train somehow?" But he couldn't, and the train went past. The train reached the hilltop and began going down the other side. The 3 brownies sat down suddenly as the engine started tearing downhill. "It's like a switchback," groaned Hop. "Oh dear, it's climbing up another hill now. And here's another station," said Skip, leaning out. "Oh my, it's Switchback Station. I hope to goodness we're not going to go up and down like this much longer. It's making me feel quite ill." The train tore downhill again, then up and then down once more. The carriages followed in a rattling row while all the passengers shrieked and shouted. Stations raced by, but the trains didn't seem to think of stopping anywhere. "Horrid little engine," said Hop. "I believe it's thoroughly enjoying itself." "Oh my," suddenly shouted Skip. "The engine's gone off the rails. Oh my! And there's a pond in front of us," yelled Jump. Ka-splash, ka-plunk. Into the pond went the engine, carriages and passengers. Everybody was tumbled, splash into the pond, and the noise frightened all the ducks away to the bank. Everyone floundered about in the shallow, muddy water. No one was hurt, but everybody was very, very angry. "Catch those brownies," they yelled, and made a grab at Hop, Skip and Jump. "Spank them and take them to prison." The brownies scrambled out of the pond as quickly as they ever could. They began to feel frightened when they heard the angry voices of all the dozens of passengers. There were rabbits, moles, weasels, gigglers, and 2 clever people, a peddler with a sack, and some queer people who didn't much look as if they belonged to anywhere. They all scrambled out of the pond after the brownies and chased them. Down the lane went the 3, followed by all the passengers. "Stop them! Stop them!" they cried. The brownies raced on. Soon they came to a queer little village built entirely of large mushrooms and toadstools. They had doors in the stalks and windows and chimneys in the top part. Little people came to the doors and looked out when they heard all the noise. They stared in astonishment at the sight of the 3 running brownies, followed by all the other people. At the end of the village ran a stream. It was too wide and too deep for the brownies to cross, and they didn't know what to do. "Quick, quick, think of something," cried Skip. Hop looked round despairingly. The passengers were nearly on them. Then a clever thought came to him. He ran to a toadstool, snapped it off, put it upside down in the stream and jumped into it. Skip and Jump sprang in just in time, pushing off from the bank, and left the passengers staring at them in dismay. "Ha ha!" called Hop, feeling very relieved. "You didn't get us that time." "No, but someone else will get you. Look behind you," yelled the rabbit whose whiskers had been blown off. The brownies looked onto the other bank, and who do you think stood there? Why, 3 wooden-looking soldiers all waiting for the toadstool boat to land. Bump! The toadstool reached the shore. The soldiers sprang forward, caught hold of each of the brownies and marched them off. "Now, quick march," said the soldier sternly. "You'll go to prison till tomorrow morning and then be brought before the judge for frightening our ducks and for using one of our houses for a boat." The brownies wriggled and struggled, but it was no good. They were marched into a toadstool-marked prison, and there they were locked in for the night. "Oh dear, dear, dear," wept Jump. "I'm wet and cold and hungry. Hop, you've got us into trouble again." "Be quiet," said Hop, who was feeling very much ashamed of himself and all of his doings in the train. "Good night," said Skip sadly. "I'm going to sleep to see if I can't find something to eat in my dreams." And 2 minutes later, the brownies were fast asleep. Chapter 8. Their Adventure in Toadstool Town.